But today's event is especially special. Princess Basmah is the granddaughter of King Abdulaziz, the founder of modern Saudi Arabia, and the youngest child of King Saud. She began her career in journalism before she founded her own company, which works in marketing and media in Seed. So you see she's an entrepreneur herself. Um, a project that is very close to her heart, and I hope she talks about, is Lanterns United Global, which is a network of individuals and organizations that work together for a more egalitarian world. While living in London, she now lives in Jeddah, but while living in London, Princess Basma founded a research center called the Global United Research and Analysis, GURU, and that works on development and economic issues, and I hope she'll talk about that as well. So you can see she's an accomplished entrepreneur in business, in the NGO world, and in value creation. So we really look forward to an interesting conversation this morning. She's absolutely dedicated, committed to promoting women's entrepreneurship throughout the Middle East in her spare time, because she manages several companies that she's founded, buys and sells, and manages in Saudi Arabia. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Princess Basma. And I'm going to sit down, and you can still hear me. And if you don't mind, I'll just ask you a few questions.
Please go ahead.
Because you have so many interesting things that you are doing. You've had such an interesting life and such an interesting career. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about your own personal journey, how you became an entrepreneur, what it means to be a Saudi woman who breaking into the economic world and the business world, and what kind of obstacles and opportunities you've found.
Actually, morning to you all. Be happy to be here, and I'm sure glad to share my views and my life story with you. And I would like to begin it as I did as a mother. I'm a mother of 5. And this is
I love that. I love that. Thank you for that.
Thank you. So this is how I began my my journey. Raised my children up and wanted to do something that actually will benefit the generations to come. Especially, I have 3 girls in my household and 2 boys. And I thought that actually the best way to do that is to be a role model for them. This is how I began my my life as a businesswoman, and for that I wanted to give a pathway, since it was early 90s that I began my work while I had my 3 children. And since I was educated in Beirut, in Lebanon, I was a scout, I was doing lots of activities and so on, and I thought I was very bored when I was just having my children. Mm-hmm. So I thought that I would start my business then. I wanted to do some fashion design, got somebody to teach me how to do fashion design, started designing, and then opened my first mall, Arab woman mall in Jeddah. 2000, that's 1992. And this is where I began my journey. And I found myself that I was able to make my own money.
So, what a good feeling.
Yes. So actually that gave me a lot of confidence in myself, and it gave me a lot of security, self-confidence, and I thought I would take it another step. When I had my 5th child, I was in London, and I began in real estate. I just wanted also to do some interior decoration. I started getting some, apartments there, here and there, and in London that time in 1995, I think, 95. The real estate was just falling down, and I thought that was a good chance to expand in that field. So I started, occupying my time while I was pregnant with my 5th child, going and shopping for the apartments and things. And I found that I could sell my first apartment with a 200% profit.
The first of the flippers.
Yes. There you go. Then I thought, it's quite a challenge, and I'm doing it, and I felt very happy that I have my own income, other than being a princess or whatever, and so on. So it gave me a boost of, that I want to make more. So I'm a very multitask person. So I wanted to do a lot and experience a lot, and I had the chance to. So this is what I did. I went to the countryside in England and started my first farm, organic farm, in 1996. And Prince Charles was just beginning that call of organics and so on. And I had my first farm, organic, and from then I just went on my career until I came back to Saudi and opened again my shop for fashion design. Then 21 years, after I completed 21 years of being housewife and a little bit of a businesswoman here and there, I got divorced and then started exploring my own intellectual interests. I studied Islamic history and culture for 2 years in Saudi Arabia and in Egypt at the Azhar. Got to know my religion very well, history. And from then, because I wanted to write, I wanted to write. I wasn't a journalist. I didn't know how to write. So I got also somebody from Egypt, a journalist, to teach me how to write. This is how I began my journey into journalism. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be an expert in my subject. So that's why I went into 2 years of heavy study before I started writing. And from then on, I've been writing as a journalist. Then I began my leisure adventure because of my children also. I'm a good cook, by the way. So they thought I should open a restaurant and share it with the rest. So this is what I did. In 2007, I opened my first restaurant, which was called Craze, and it's an abstract art cafe where I empowered girls in Dar al-Hikmah in our university to come and put their paintings for sale. So I wanted them to empower them in my cafe to be exposed to the market, and people know that we have girls that are artists. And from there, I began opening exhibitions for girls and for women in Saudi Arabia in between 2006 and 2009. And I continued opening exhibitions for men also. At that time, art wasn't favorite. So I wanted to push that wheel, and here it goes. So this is my journey in Saudi Arabia. Then I went to London, and I wanted also to experiment something else, because at that time there was the beginning of the Arab revolutions, and I have written few pieces in different universities indicating that there is something in the region that is going on that only a woman can sense. So I tried actually to, write about this beforehand, and then unfortunately, the area just went into revolutions and after revolution. And this is when I devoted my time, and I established GURA, Global United Research Analysis Center, and my platform of nonprofit, which is the Global Lanterns, United Global Lanterns, that has activists from all around the world, socio-activists, who could also, give us an insight of what's going on in the revolutions, on women's side and the family side. And I was an observer during all that time. And then I went all over the world really speaking about my experiences in and out. Then I went to Africa, explored the African society and comparing it to the Arab world, and how does this fit, and what is the symptoms of, the unsettlement in societies. And since I was going everywhere, actually really lecturing in different things, environment, health, education, security, I'm part of the Munich Security Council, I'm part of TASAM, the Turkish Security Council, I'm part of Chatham House, I'm part of UCLA Security Council. So I was thinking, I'm saying too much, and people were not really following me. What is my expertise? So I sat down for 1 year writing my thesis. Mm-hmm. But I accumulated all my education, my expertise, and my thoughts about what is missing, what is the gap in the 21st century, and why it's happening. And I monitored it down to a thesis called the Fourth Way Law that has 4 pillars that can take us into the next 21st century without too many revolutions at hand, socioeconomic revolutions. And then I wanted to register it, and that was another struggle. There was a lot of challenges from academics, from people in the world that thought that I was not saying something which is useful for the era that we're living in. And they thought it was another communism, but it wasn't. They didn't read all the theses. So I had a little bit of struggle, registering the thesis, and finally I registered it in the EU in 2013. Convinced people here in the Congress Library and registered it here. And then last year I registered it in King Fahd Library, which was actually my last conquest and the most satisfying one, to say that, because it's in the Arab world. And they accepted what I have written about what should be done for the next stage. That's simply just who I am.
My goodness, I'm exhausted.
I was at the end of
You're
the...
a mother of 5, you're a farmer, you're a real estate developer, you're a fashion designer, you're a chef and restaurateur.
By the way, I passed all this to my children now.
Yeah. My goodness, you've done everything. You must be a wonderful role model for young women in your own country, throughout the Middle East. Do you find that? I was particularly struck by your concept of encouraging young women artists to come and show in Craze, your
Right.
restaurants. How else are you able to reach out to young women and help them along? Because you've done so much. You must be a wonderful role model.
One day, actually, at the beginning, when I started my journalism, I wanted to write things which were real, not heard. So what I used to do is get in the car with my 5 children who were teenagers and go to the regions outside Jeddah and Riyadh and visit families and women and suburbs.
You just
villages.
drop in on them?
I'll just drop in.
You wouldn't warn them ahead
I
of
wouldn't
time?
even tell anybody. It was just like my GMC and my children at the back. Took some food and things and presents and so on, and went into these trips around Saudi Arabia, especially around the Hijaz area, and explored, and saw by myself how women are living and how people are living outside this area. And this is how I started getting in touch with the people down there. And then I expanded my relationship with girls at colleges, at schools, since my children were in the colleges and at schools. So I used to go and be very much involved with the girls' recreational activities. I was the first one to help Lena and Marina in establishing the basketball team because my girls were there from the beginning.
Sports.
Basketball.
Wonderful.
So I was advocating for sports in private schools in 2004. And before that, at the first school when my children were very young, Jeddah Private School in 1990. So I was playing basketball with the girls because I was a captain of my basketball team in Lebanon.
My daughters would be so proud to hear you say that.
Thank you. So this is how I really got into that, not being an elite and writing about people, but being part of the people and writing about people. This is how I got to know the real issues, the real problems, the real struggles of women on a grassroots operation and families on a grassroots operation rather than just being an academic. And with all due respect to all the academics, and this is one of the things, you need people who go down and really see things. Get your statistics from your own researchers or people you employ rather than get it from institutions, because you're always getting it on hand rather than actually taking a number and just putting it there. And it might be, offhand sometimes.
So you were writing about the real lives and problems and travails of the people. Where were you publishing, and did you have a lot of readership?
Yes, definitely. The first time my first actually article was about America. I was on a trip to the States with my children because they are fans of Disney Channel. They are brought up on Disney Channel, and part of the Saudi girls are brought up on Disney channels. They love it. So what I wanted to do is that show them Disney and show them American life. So I got them on a plane, came to Florida. This is where we started. And then along the way from Florida to Los Angeles to New York, we were actually being invited by American families.
Oh, nice.
Not just staying in the hotels. And they got to know the American family and how they're living, and they were comparing between Disney and the American life, and there was an eye-opening. And I wanted to share that with the public and the girls in Saudi Arabia and the generations. And I wanted to tell them what's myth and what's right. And this is when I wanted to write about it. And when I wanted to write about it, I didn't know how to write. And I got somebody to help me how to write, break it into articles, and I published in Al Madina newspaper in 2006, my trip. It was called The Trip to Uncle Sam's Country. So it has 7 parts. And each part described each part of my journey. And now I have a book online. It's not actually yet published. It's called The Art of Traveling of a Princess.
Ah, fun.
This is where I traveled all around the world, Africa. I've actually written an article after every trip to every continent.
Well, I'm delighted to hear that you're interpreting the world for your readership in Saudi Arabia. But there's a real need for people in this country to understand that there are people like you, that there are women who are entrepreneurial and creative and innovative and pushing the envelope. We get stuck sometimes in our stereotype of a Saudi woman as someone in a veil who's repressed, but you're certainly not.
Definitely.
So how can we, this is one of the missions of the Middle East Institute, is to inform and educate the people of the United States about what was really going on. What advice can you give to us to kind of break down those stereotypes here within the United States?
Take off your eyeglasses or sunglasses. Start seeing things as they are. Target actually the media, the Arab media. I mean, you can see on NBC, we have some called NBC channels. Mm-hmm. We've got ART channels. I mean, and they are international. I mean, you just can switch the TV on. And this is somebody has asked me the same question about the States. And I told them, turn on the CNN. Turn on the ABC, turn on the Fox. I mean, you can see how Americans live. I mean, you don't have to ask me. Go there. I mean, you know, that's up there now in the media. Everything is in the media. It's just you have to choose between Arabic and English. And there are English-spoken media, Arabic media channels, which are very popular, Al Jazeera, all these channels. And they are also, you know, target the English, American, the Western societies. So really it's just having that effort to turn on the media and to see how are we living, how are the women are living, what do we look like. Most of us are, I mean, you know, I can tell you like 60% of the population in Saudi are youth. And out of the 60%, there's a 60% women. And out of the 60%, you've got 30% who are unveiled. So
30% unveiled?
30% who are unveiled. I mean, unveiled, I mean, you know, uncovered. I mean, you can see their faces without, what do you call here, burqa? Burqa. So burqa. Somebody actually came and told me, you don't have burqa. And I said, what's burqa? You know, I thought that was something I should be putting on my head. So it turned out to be burqa.
Yeah.
So that's you know, the cover on your face. And I said, you know, most of us don't do it actually, except maybe the Bedouins in the desert and some of of course, the women in Riyadh and of course we have. I mean, you know, this is definitely, but 3/4 of them don't. Maybe when they go on the media, on television, they put it just because of respect for the media, and so they don't get prosecuted by their families and so on. But down the street, if you even go to Jeddah, it's, you know, most of the people don't even put anything. And, you know, foreigners and Lebanese don't put on their head. Mm-hmm. And now I'm seeing it more and more in Riyadh. So there's a lot of change there that actually nobody is shedding the light on. Mm-hmm. It's like a light that should be shedding the light on what's happening now, not before. People are stuck somewhere.
Yeah. Maybe you could help us shed some light on what's happening now. We were talking before we came in a bit about the new family laws.
Right.
Please.
So actually, you know, we were talking about the family laws. Now there is a new bill that has come down from the Ministry of Interior, allowing women to have a family book, which is a family book that's registering her children under her name, and being able to take them to schools, hospitals, and all these things. That was one of the major things that we were calling for. Now, it's not into execution because I just asked a friend yesterday and she went down actually to get her family book, but they told her to come back in a few weeks. And that is a major, I mean, the major step into women's rights in Saudi Arabia. It has never been done before. Mm-hmm. Now she has the right to have her family book, and she has the right to have her children on you know, under her sponsorship and guardian, and she can take them, and that was one of the biggest obstacles, take them to schools, register them into hospitals, into and not traveling definitely, but you know, that is something I hope is in the future. And this is one of the main issues that we've been actually fighting for, not driving, to tell you the truth. You know, driving is like something, I've said it, I know, you know, I've been attacked by so many people when I say driving is not the most important thing for a Saudi woman. Saudi women need their basic rights first, to be able to actually to drive. And driving is just Not a, I mean, you know, I said that it's a commodity. It's not a commodity, but it's not the issue. It's not the real issue that we need right now. And this is one of my calls and one of my most important, actually, messages to the Western world is that let us actually choose our priorities.
You know, pretty soon none of us will be driving if Elon Musk gets his way. I have so many more questions to ask you because you've got so many things that you've done in your life and it's so interesting, but I promise not to be selfish and to monopolize you and to open it up to the audience for your questions. Please wait until the microphone comes because as I've said, we are videotaping and recording this. And if you could just say who you are, your name, and if you represent an organization. Ambassador.
Princess Basmah.
Grateful to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You make us very, very proud as an Arab woman representing an Arab country in the United States. We need to see more people like you. It's not easy for me. I try very hard to remove all this misconception about an Arab woman. But I also need support from people like yourselves. When I saw your name that you were coming today, I thought this is fantastic. I have to be there. Cancel all my appointments and be there.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I just say, but I don't want to interrupt you, but you have done so much, Ambassador. You were the first female ambassador from an Arab country,
Yes, I was, yeah.
And you've conducted yourself with such dignity and respect, and you're one of the most respected ambassadors
and
in
we
Washington.
are very actually proud of women, you know, just like you coming out into feel them.
Thank
really.
you. Just to second what you said, I must a lot of time to speak and talk about Arab women. And one of the first things I'm asked is, can you drive in Oman? And I totally agree with you. That's not the most important thing. Here you have an Arab woman representing an Arab country and you ask me if I drive. The only reason I drive is I can't afford a driver. If I could afford a driver, I wouldn't be driving.
Here you go. That's what I said.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
When will your book be published and where can we get it?
Oh, it's already published 3 years ago and it's online.
It's online.
And I mean, I'm doing a publication for the US. It's now in Europe, but it's online. And I would love to give you a special copy and send it to you, definitely. And I'm working on another one.
Thank you very much.
And we would like one for the Middle East Institute Library, the Oman Library at the Middle East Institute.
Definitely,
thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Another question? There's one right here, Mrs. Buck.
Hello, Your Royal Highness. My name is Hala Buck. I'm Lebanese American. And next week, I'm giving a talk about Arab women and Arab culture and Arab feminism and Islamic feminism. And my husband is Foreign Service. We lived in Jeddah from 1996 to 99. So it's really great to hear what has happened since we left, because I want to be able to give the up-to-date of what each Arab culture, each Arab country has, and what they have chosen, which is my main theme of, that each country has to choose how they're going to modernize. Sure. So is there anything
at their own pace.
At their own pace, exactly. Is there something you can give me there? I've gotten so much already, but is there something, especially about Saudi Arabia, that if there was one thing I could tell them? I know the family law thing is very important. Is there something that you would, in terms of women, I'm an art therapist and I worked with the artists there. I guess I don't know what I'm asking, but I'm asking for something that I could just, give people to change those stereotypes.
Somebody just whispered something here. She's my co-partner. Mm-hmm. Yes, entrepreneurship. Yeah, this is the way to connect to really get the wheel going and to get the women and men at the same time be economically independent, help them to create and new businesses, and of course, interact with especially with the cyber world right now. You can get your product from Saudi Arabia if you want. So we can get our product from here. And I think this is the best way right now, is that entrepreneurship and empowering women and men at the same time, because the youth, both of them don't find work, by the way. It's not only women's issue, especially right now. Before it was like a workforce, the workforce, and anywhere. And so, it is in Saudi Arabia, which is here. I found out that the workforce, in so many places is 3% for women. So, I think we should be working on both sides, and how to help each other, how to make a community that can actually be able to bridge those gaps by entrepreneurship and by economical exchanges. I think that's the most important thing right now.
Thank you. In the front row here.
Hello. I just wanted to say I'm a fan.
Thank you.
I just met you. I just learned about you yesterday, honestly. So, but I'm very impressed. And I have a question.
Where are you from?
So you've been publishing and writing, and your thesis. So what I'm wondering is, do you write it in Arabic and then translate it in English?
No, the other way around.
English and then you translate
Yes.
it. Okay. I have one more question. So I was doing some research and background about you, and I saw that you studied medicine, psychology, and English literature. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, yes, you're right.
So
And political science and political and economic, socioeconomics and sociology.
was that all in
But those I had my degree in. The other ones were just like 1 year, 1 year, 1 year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yes, that's true.
Thank you. Let's go to the gentleman with the red tie.
I'm Shihab Makahla from Jordan. I'm working as a senior advisor. I would like to thank you for your lecture today and for coming here. What's your advice for women in the Middle East right now? We are suffering right there from, troubles, from wars, and women there, they are, let's say, the backbone of every community. So what's your advice for women? Thank you.
Very interesting question, which I answered in Bahrain. I had the same question, and I think it was from the Jordanese also. We were in Amcham, and I said, it's been a long time that women have been asked to lean in to make that presence. And I agree a lot with the author. But I think right now it's time to stand up. I think women should stand up right now and make that evolution themselves, to come forward and of course not in a revolutionary way, no. And making a statement and standing up for what they believe, and we should be helping each other. Women who have made it have to help the women who are shying away from doing so, especially the grassroots, women of all these countries. They have no means to express themselves or actually to access the power that we have got ourselves. So we as women have to help each other first, because our first obstacle are women. Women don't want the change and don't want the change from another woman. And this is our first obstacle that we have to. And how do we do that is actually, I think, by empowering our boys and girls themselves and our families to start a new ethical engagement and education. My fourth way laws are 4 pillars. starts with education and ends up with security. And it starts with security and ends up in education. And between them, you have equality and freedom. What is equality? Equality, we were talking about it last night. Equality is not equality of minorities and equality. No, no. When you overcome the equality of gender, now there's no more colors, no green, no blues, no, it's simply women and men. So a woman, whether she's black, yellow, blue, yellow, white, blue, brown, and a man which is black, yellow, whatever, should be equal. Wherever they're coming from, wherever their actual status is, should be equal in rights. I'm not saying wealth. And this is a lot of people, mistake me in saying, what do you mean wealth? And I said, no. Equality is status. And to work, you get the same payment, you get the same chances of work, and you get the same rights in the Constitution. This is one of the main issues that will empower your girls, my girls, everybody's girls to come forward and actually demand their rights. Plus education at schools and curriculums. If they don't allow women to know their rights and expose them to that, that will be the next step actually to overcome. This is the only way to do that. Thank you.
I'd just like to say that, not to boast, but here at the Middle East Institute, the top two executives are the president and the senior vice president, and honestly, we could not grow this institute the way we have without the strong support of women and women, with Kate Seeley as our senior vice president. And so it's not always true.
And that's why I'm here with you.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And one of our very most innovative and intellectual scholars is Dr. Rhonda Slim. So women are engines, and we like to see this. Can you give us, let me just ask another question, sorry, then we'll return to the group. Can you give us some examples of other Saudi women who are role models and who are giving back and developing young women the way you are? And
yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot. Mm-hmm. Some of them are known, some of them are unknown, and this is why I wanted to do the lanterns in Saudi Arabia to shine the light on the women who are unknown. This is one of the priority of the lanterns. It's not to shine the light on the people who are known, but to shine the light on the people who are not known, so mm-hmm. they become actually rather a norm rather than an exception. And Lubna Al-Alayan is one of them. She holds one of the richest, actually, revenues in Saudi Arabia. She's one of the richest women in the Middle East and in the world. She comes like, I think, the 20 in that respect. We have Dr. Al-Bishir. We have a doctor who was in the UN. She was part of the UN. She was here. She was...
Yeah,
just escaped my mind. Yeah, she was here for all this time, and she was one of the UN most. And now she's in the Congress of Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of established women over there who have done a lot. Again, I must say there is a problem that we have. We don't shine the light on these women, and that is the problem.
Well, let's work together to do that.
Exactly. And I want to ask you about your secret about doing it with the other women.
They work harder. Other questions? It's a woman back here.
Sabah al-Khair. My name is Jane Guyden. I work for the Department of State and actually manage a lot of programs in North Africa, a lot of which focus on entrepreneurship. And I think there's a pretty broad consensus that entrepreneurship is of increasing importance across the region. In your experience, what are some of the biggest barriers that women and girls specifically face when trying to start their own business, and how have people overcome them?
Where, in Saudi?
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the biggest challenge in Saudi Arabia. I'll start by Saudi Arabia. Are the laws of labor. Then we move to the Middle East. It is actually the insecurity of the whole region. Then we move to Europe, which is the insecurity of the EU. Then we move to the States. It's the socioeconomic, it's the economics which are failing everywhere and falling everywhere. So they're losing trust in putting that money and going into the entrepreneurship, and at the end, really not having a substantial consistency and success in what they're doing. So I think, doing a module, very substantial module for entrepreneurship would be a very important guide to entrepreneurship in the world. Is when you get actually a proper guide into how to do it and how to continue it, and you have the right people to support you during that, I think that would be one of the most successful projects that we can ever make. I know I went several places before I came here, and there was few very successful entrepreneurship sponsored by people who already have made it, and they have done the funds and so on. But you can't have this for every single person. So you have to have like a hot spot where entrepreneurship really goes to be able to have a guide how to do it and the support to make it all through the way. Not everybody makes it, but definitely you should have like a program or a hub, especially with the cyber world right now, that you can use as a center to make entrepreneurship more successful in the world. Thank you.
Then we'll come to you.
Hello, thank you for being here. My name is Christina, and I work for the World Bank on gender rights. Yesterday, I was reading the news, and I heard the story of that very courageous young girl. Her name is Safiya Khan, a woman from Birmingham, who stood up and defended a woman who was wearing her hijab and was surrounded by a group of racists.
Where?
In Birmingham.
Birmingham.
This was a very powerful example, and her ironic smile towards the racists and the police was captured by photographers and journalists around the world. It was a very powerful message that she conveyed. And my question is, how do people from Europe and the United States that do not hold institutional positions and do not hold an office in the government, everyday people, can be advocate for empowerment of women from the Middle East? Thank you.
Give it to her next. Let's ask two questions, take two questions at once.
Hi, my name is Shireen Yassin. I work with Middle East Broadcasting Network. In the World Summit for Women, Hillary Clinton said that she thinks that women's right all around the world is, there is an attack on women's right all around the world. I mean, to hear this from Hillary Clinton, who is from this democratic country, it kind of draws a bleak picture for the future of women all around the world. I would like to know whether you agree with that or not, and why. Thank you.
I will answer that actually first. I just started my when I said grassroots operation should be more than going behind the scenes and writing about women and standing up. It's the media. The media that is most important thing actually to show. We show always the things which are wrong. We never actually show the things which are right, and we don't take into consideration nations talking to each other and supporting each other. We are always talking about governments attacking each other or being with each other or allies or something. We do not pay attention on the people who are the most important actually treasure of any nation. And I think media should be concentrating right now more on the positive side of things rather than always the negative sides of the story. We always hear, about this problem, that problem, tragedies and so on of people. We don't hear about the good things about people as much as we should. And I think media will play a big role in showing that positive attitude and turning things around, because media has turned so many things around. And I think it can turn this one around. They have the responsibility, I think. Very true. I agree with Mrs. Clinton 100%. But it's the only thing I don't look at is not bleak. I think once we recognize the problem is the most important thing. Once we state the problem, it becomes important. While we do not know and we do not actually admit the problem, this is the problem. So Mrs. Clinton, I think, from her travels around the world, she was a Secretary of State. So she has gone everywhere, she has done everything, she has seen everything, and she knows exactly what's happening around the world, especially in the revolutionary areas. And like Egypt and Syria and all these places, women's rights now have just become something out of the past. And the issue right now is how to secure your daily security life. So it is by all means, women's rights are jeopardy here. And it's all means it's the time to cross the bridge and take power out of this period that we are in. By recognizing the problem, we have to find the solution. And the solution is very simply, just push for equality. I think equality is the most important thing in the world. If you don't have the equality of anything, it doesn't work. And if you push for other things other than equality, in that sense, equality in what? I mean, it's not about women's lib. No, it's just being equal to the other in duties and in actually attributes in work, in your social life, in your society, and being able to be the President of the United States of America.
Well, she couldn't do that.
But she's tried. I mean, this is, with all respect, this has been quite a step for women.
Yeah.
Getting there by itself is amazing. It's an achievement. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Dolores Reyes, and I'm an entrepreneur here in the United States, in Washington, D.C. But the other part of me is that I am a radio host, and I come on a radio station here in Washington, D.C. called WYCB 1340 AM Radio. And I wanted to find out, how can I be of service in order to get the American female public to understand more about people and women from the Middle East? I would be more than happy to be of service so that we can bridge some sort of communication network that we can all work together, particularly in our entrepreneurial pursuits together. And I would love to have your advice on that. Thank you so much.
And then the woman in front of her.
Well, I'm glad to be here. My name is Hanan. I'm glad to be here. My name is Hanan. I just would like to ask you, the reality is different, and we wish a lot of things. You said it's time for women to be stand. Do you think Saudi Arabia, the culture, is ready for that? Do you think Saudi Arabia is ready for that? For women
what?
to be, you said
Stand
it's
up.
time for women to stand.
They're already standing up. They're already standing up everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
Arabia.
There is a lot.
And what I mean is that standing up is shining the light on the girls and women who are standing up. I'm not telling them to stand up. Shine the light on those women who have stood up, and write about them. Put them as a stand-up woman already who have done it, and they will be the guide to other women to stand up. And I don't mean to stand up against their families, no. To stand up for their rights and believe in themselves as women who can achieve and be independent economically and socially. That's all I'm saying. And for the radio, I would love to, anytime, we can do something maybe as a program or something that can be like a continuous one. Even when I'm in Saudi Arabia, we can Skype and do things and get other women from different who have stood up already, like Lubna Al-Alayan, like so many people, like some of the girls here, who have stood up and done something and are actually saying something, who have achieved a status quo of being consistent and brave and getting there, like our ambassador here. So this is a very good way of showing and pathing the way for the rest of the women in the world to see what their women have done, and they will be encouraged to do it the same way diplomatically.
We have time for about 2 more questions. I see a hand back there and a hand here.
My name is Diana Chacon from the World Bank. So while I can agree that the Western has a misconception or a misperception of women in the Middle East, or especially in Saudi Arabia, it's also a fact that Saudi Arabia has some of the most restrictive laws and regulations, prohibitions against women's work, inheritance rights, etc. So that may be a big barrier, as you just mentioned, for women's equality and just for women and men to have the same rights and responsibilities. I also see as, and kind of piggybacking on the lady's previous question, it's hard for a woman to stand up and speak up in a society where a woman who may not belong to an elite circle is many times shut down, or not, her voice is not really heard. My question is, how do you see that the laws, regulations, the legal framework in Saudi Arabia are in regards to other Arab world countries like the UAE or other countries that may be more will have more flexible frameworks or legal frameworks? That's my question. And if you could also see where do you find Saudi Arabia in the next 5 or 10 years in regard to flexibilizing these certain laws that may be inhibiting women right now from exercising their full rights.
Okay, and the final questioner over here.
Hi, my name is Bibi Mir. I'm from India, and I'm a Muslim. So for me, when I heard that you were coming, I made a point, even though I was driving around for a long time trying to find parking space. But it's very, very encouraging to hear somebody like you speaking. I, unfortunately, as a Muslim, have come, we come from India along in, when we take the religion of Islam, we also take a lot of your Arab culture, thinking that is part of Islam. And so in India, our women are very badly subjected, our meaning the Muslim women, not the Hindu women, but the Muslim women are badly subjected, and they always go back to, in Saudi Arabia, this is done, so our laws are looked up to by your laws. And so, like for us Indian women, and not, as she said, not the elite, but the middle of the road. I work with an orphanage where girls are not allowed to read because it's considered un-Arabic, un-Islamic. They're not allowed, if they divorce, they get nothing because of the laws. And so there's a lot going on. So I'd be very pleased if, especially Saudi Arabia, which is considered sort of the birth of the religion, it'd be so wonderful if people like you and other Saudi women would stand up and say, look, this is not allowed by the religion. You can say anything, but a lot, both in Pakistan and in India, what has come in with the religion, even though religion says women are twin halves of men, what comes in is there's a lot of discrimination against women, especially our women. So I'm very pleased that you're here.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. I would like to recap on that after that.
Okay. No, thank you. So if you
All
could
right.
get the final word.
Yeah, the final word is actually, when I said stand up, stand up is not for the women to stand up. And I said, shed the light on the girls and women who have stood up already. I'm not asking, the women to stand up on a grassroots operation, but the women who have made it as an elite. And I don't know if you read Saudi Arabian journals or you go and you see Saudi Arabian TV. I don't know if you do that. There's a lot of women there who are already standing up and saying what they want on TV, Saudi Arabian TV. There are already Saudi Arabian presenters on Saudi Arabian channels, and there are more than 60% of the media writers in the journals and on cyber. They're women, and they're stating their opinions, and nobody is saying anything for that. On the contrary, they're helping them do that. So there is a lot of misconception, I think, by the West and not looking closely to what's happening in Saudi, rather than just making up their mind and keep on doing what they're doing and having that old look into it. And I invite you to today, please do, go into the Saudi Arabian television network. It's on Google. You can Google it. YouTube it. Go there, see how many women are there, standing up and saying what they want. Go see how many writers we have as journalists right now. 60% of the force in Saudi Arabia who writes in journals are women. And they are stating women's issues and even going into religious issues and arguing about the Sharia. So there's a lot of things that I think you should be updating your database here to be able to have a good look of what's happening there. So I'm not asking women to stand up in Saudi Arabia. I'm asking the women who have done it to stand up. That's all what I'm saying. And I'm saying that we should help them to stand up and out of the picture. So people like in the World Bank and here and in the Western world can see what women in the Middle East are doing and have been doing for the last maybe 5 to 7 years. The other issue, in Saudi Arabia, I get my inheritance. My daughter gets her inheritance. All the women in Saudi Arabia get their inheritance. 60% of our universities are filled with women. So I don't know where the India has got it from. Not from Saudi Arabia, for sure. We are exercising, actually, our Islamic rights. And most of them, all the women, except, there are cases, of course, in the court for hereditary things, but every woman gets her inheritance in Saudi Arabia. And all women, and mostly women are going to universities and schools more than men. And now this is the biggest rate ever in Saudi Arabian history, where you have women in universities and in schools. So I think India should look closely to what's happening rather than actually take what they want, because this is heritage, not Islam. And definitely it's not happening in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, well, please join me in thanking the princess.
Thank you.